talk about the holiday of Shavuot, the upcoming holiday that we're going to have in a couple of days from now. I want to analyze and ask the question as to what exactly we're commemorating, what exactly happened on this day, the 6th day of Sivan. So if you ask any kid, any Jewish kid in any Jewish day school, what are we celebrating on Shavuot? They'll say, we're celebrating that we got the Torah, the day we got the Torah. And I think that we have to really understand, what does that mean? What did we get? Did we get the books of the Torah, like the scrolls, the Torah scrolls? There's a major problem with that. If we got the Torah scrolls, well, we know that Shavuot was only 50 days into the Jews' sojourn in the wilderness, and they had another 40 years that they spent in the desert, and lots of events happened that are recorded in the Torah. So obviously, it doesn't make sense that they got the Torah, which describes narratives and events that happened only afterwards. So they clearly didn't get the written Torah. In fact, the Talmud says, there's a debate in the Talmud as to when exactly they did get the written Torah. Did they get it incrementally as it happened? As it happened, the Almighty instructed Moses to write down this and give it to the Jewish people? Or did they get it all the way at the end? When Moses is about to die, they got the written Torah. Either way, everyone agrees that the written Torah, we call the 5 books of Moses, the Chumash, the Jews that did not get it on, they did not get it in its entirety on Shavuot. So what exactly did happen? So it's important to note that Shavuot is the first, or really the week of Shavuot was the first time that the Jews were encamped at Mount Sinai, but they were actually there for an entire year. And the Midrash goes on to tell us that during this year, the Jewish people received the Torah, the laws of the Torah, what we would call the oral law, what to do, what does being Jewish mandate. When the Jews left Egypt, they became a nation. And as a nation, right on the doorstep, or on the footsteps, on the heels of them leaving Egypt, they're now Jews. Well, how do Jews act? They get the Torah, and they get the instructions of what it means to be Jewish. So what are the holidays? What are the rituals? What are the practices? Laws of kosher, laws of tzitzis and tefillin and prayer and all of that. All of those laws they actually received orally from Moses at Mount Sinai over the course of a year. And that pretty much started Shavuot. But on Shavuot itself, all we got was the 10 Commandments, and the 10 Commandments being 10 mitzvahs in the Torah, 10 mitzvahs and 10 fundamental mitzvahs, in fact, so fundamental that they seem to be a microcosm of all of Torah. If you were to analyze these 10 Commandments, you'll find that these 10 Commandments really encapsulate everything that the Torah in its entirety wants to convey to you. 10 mitzvahs, well, there's still 603 more of them. But primarily, what we got on Shavuot was the experience of Shavuot. And what I mean by the experience of Shavuot, what was there to experience? Moses went up to the mountain, and he came back and gave us the tablets with the 10 Commandments. Is that right? Is that right? Actually, it's wrong. If you open up the book of Exodus and you read the description of what happened, it wasn't just Moses receiving these 10 Commandments. It wasn't just Moses having a wonderful experience of prophecy on the Mount Sinai. It was, in fact, all the Jews. Millions of Jews. Right? 603,500 adult males in the age of 20 and 60, which you could safely presume you would have a likewise amount of females, maybe even a little bit more females. As we know in America, there's more females than there are males, because males die in things called war and bungee jumping. Either way, so we could assume there's at least 1.2 million adults between the age of 20 and 60, plus you have to account for some elders, and of course some young people, and you have a number which is at least 1.5 million, maybe even 2 or even north of that. So you have a lot of people there, and the Torah says that it wasn't just Moses getting the Torah or having this experience as revelation at Sinai. It was the entire nation. Every single person, every single Jew was at the foot of the mountain, and they experienced prophecy. They saw with absolute clarity God, whatever that even means. We don't even know what that means, because to us, prophecy is an interaction, a sensual, not to sensual as in regard with use of the senses, interaction with God. That's something we can't even wrap our heads around. To us, God is so distinct, is so different than anything that we can wrap our heads around, because we are finite. God is infinite. So how do you understand something that doesn't exist in time and space? It's just an idea for us. But for a prophet, is someone who encounters God with his senses. He talks to God, he communicates with God, he sees visions of God. The Jewish people, every single one of them at Mount Sinai, had prophecy. And this experience, this wonderful experience that the Jews had, is the foundation of our religion. How so? Our religion was founded with an experience, with a revelation that has never been matched by any other religion. No other religion even claims to have had a revelation to the masses. Right? It's either one man in New York with some golden tablets, or one guy in Medina, Mecca, right, having prophecy. That's the claim. No one else even claims to have a prophecy experienced by millions. Why don't they claim that? Because it's something which is easily debunked, right? If you can't convince someone that they saw something that they didn't see. No one would follow Moses if Moses walked around and said, "Oh, you saw God, and you saw God, and you saw God." He writes it in a book, and he gives this book to the Jewish people. The Jews would throw it out. This is not the word of God. This is Moses made it up. I was there. I didn't see nothing. For the fact that the Jews adopted the law and adopted it fastidiously and practiced it for generations and taught it to their children, and kept even the laws that weren't so easy to keep, like laws of Shabbos, laws of Shemitah, all the restrictive laws and diet and the life practices that the Torah, God in His infinite wisdom, has taught us and has instructed us and has even restricted us. No one would accept that if they knew it was baloney. So, indeed, if we examine the holiday of Shavuot, it's important for us to recognize that, yes, we got the Torah, but what did we actually get? We didn't get the written Torah, we got the oral Torah. That was the beginning. But on Shavuot itself, it was all about the experience, the revelation, the faith-building exercise that the Jewish people experienced and have taught to their children and continue to perpetuate onward. And it's a time for us to regain confidence in our faith. It's a time for us to try to relive that experience and say, wow, this is something that my ancestors were there. My ancestors at Mount Sinai, 3,326 or 7 years ago, we have documentation, the people, the names, where they lived, where they went to, their sojourns, where there were different places that they stopped. They ended up in Israel. And they're all our ancestors. And they taught us and our parents and our grandparents the practice of Jewish law and tradition. So I think it's a time for us to just think about that. Open up a book of Exodus. Read the story. Read what it says. Don't just take the images and the perceptions that were developed as young people in our childhood as to what actually happened at Mount Sinai. It's unfortunate that most Jews, when they think of Moses, think of Charlton Heston. And when they think of Mount Sinai, they think of the Ten Commandments, 1956, Cecil B. DeMille. It's unfortunate. Read the book. Just read what it says, and it says clearly that the entire nation saw it. Everyone saw it. And after the Sinai experience, and throughout the years that the Jews were in the wilderness, there were lots of problems that the Jews had. There were lots of fights that they had with Moses. There were lots of claims and rejections on his leadership. But no one even once in the history of the Jewish people has questioned the legitimacy of this experience. No one. And the answer is because it's not possible to make it up. This happened. It's a historical fact. It's documented history. and the historicity of it is unquestionable. And I think that it's a time for us on Shavuos, while obviously it's a time for study, and there's a Jewish tradition to stay up the entire night and study, and that's because the Midrash tells us that the Jewish people they knew that they were going to get the Torah, but they slept in. They weren't excited like the way you were before your class trip. You wake up at 4 a.m, you can't fall back asleep. The Jewish people weren't like that, unfortunately, and they had a certain measure of a lackadaisical attitude towards this event. And they slept in. Was it everyone? Probably not. But there was an element that needed to be rectified, and therefore, over the years, for thousands of years already, Jewish people have a tradition to stay up the entire night of the first night of Shavuos, because in order to counteract this attitude that our ancestors had at Sinai. We stay up and we study because Torah is the lifeblood of our religion. And this is when we started on this wonderful journey of receiving the Torah and the traditions and the laws that have been the homeland, the portable homeland for the Jewish people. But it's also important to remember that on this day and this event distinguishes us from all other people and all other religions. And we could feel very safe and comfortable to know that we're not just Jewish and practicing and observing Judaism because that's what our parents told us. But if we'd been born in some other religion, well, we would have adopted that, and therefore we can't be sure that we're right. This event, this incontrovertible historical event, is evidence that we're right. We can feel safe and confident in our religion, and I think that's also a lesson that we could think about on the holiday of Shavuos. Happy holiday. Good luck staying up and studying. God bless.